Cultural imperialism is defined as the cultural aspects of imperialism. Imperialism here is referring to the creation and maintenance of unequal relationships between civilizations favoring the more powerful civilization. Therefore, it can be defined as the practice of promoting and imposing a culture, usually of politically powerful nations over less potent societies. It is the cultural hegemony of those industrialized or economically influential countries which determine general cultural values and standardized civilizations throughout the world. An example of cultural imperialism, and more specifically cultural hegemony, is the United States' relationship with Latin American nations post-creation of the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine declared that the U.S. would not permit further colonization in the Western Hemisphere by European powers, and that the U.S. would regard new attempts at colonization as threats, and that no American country that the United States had recognized as independent could ever be recolonized. The doctrine was invoked to prevent European meddling in the Americas, but also caused the region to be regarded as an American sphere of influence and dominance. As a result of the doctrine, the United States has kept a strong presence in Latin American nations which still exist today. While the initial reason for the United States' presence in Latin America had been in response to threats of European powers, today our existence is compromised mainly of selfish interests, specifically for the wide assortments of goods these countries have to offer and for so cheaply. Today, the policy is deeply resented by Latin American nations for its overt interventionism and perceived imperialism. Some of the most popular imports from Latin and Central America which the United States rely on is coffee from Colombia, bananas from Guatemala, and sugar from Brazil. In recent years, Latin America, and more specifically the country of Bolivia, have seen a boom in global demand for quinoa. Quinoa is a superfood highly rich in amino acids and also referred to as the lost crop of the Incas. Quinoa is a food staple in Bolivia, which provides the people of Bolivia a healthy, cheap way to make many meals. Quinoa can be used in everything from breads to smoothie-like drinks. Because of the health benefits the grain crop provides, it has gained world notoriety practically overnight, leaving Bolivia struggling to supply the world demand for it. Bolivia is Latin America's poorest nation, and this worldly demand for quinoa has had a profound effect on the country. While the demand has helped to raise the income of Bolivian farmers and has benefited the Bolivian economy, many negative consequences has come from the surge. The world popularity has caused in-country prices of the grain to soar, leaving many impoverished families who once relied on the grain as their only meal struggling to feed themselves. Families have had to turn to unhealthy options in replacement of the superfoods, such as egg noodles and rice. Much to the older generation of Bolivia's disgrace, younger children are growing to prefer egg noodles and beginning to forget the taste of quinoa. This has left the country fearful of malnutrition, a struggle the country has faced before. According to the New York Times, the shift offers a glimpse into the consequences of rising global food prices and changing eating habits in both prosperous and developing nations. While quinoa prices have almost tripled over the past 5 years, Bolivia's consumption of the staple fell 34% over the same period, according to the country's agricultural ministry. Bolivia has fallen victim to the United States and other industrialized nations' latest commodity fetishism. How does a food such as quinoa become so popular nearly overnight? The answer is no further than a Google search away. Blogs dedicated to the superfood can teach you how to properly prepare a fluffy serving of the grain. Recipes promising tasteful creations are endless, and articles claiming the miracle behind the superfood are no further than a click away. In a world defined by mediascapes and how quickly the transfer of information occurs, a well-kept secret hiding in the mountains of Bolivia is no sooner at the tips of your fingers. Theodore C. Bester once said when discussing the deterritorialization of sushi that just because sushi is available in some form or another in exclusive avenue restaurants, in baseball stadiums in Los Angeles, at airport snack carts in Amsterdam, at an apartment in Madrid delivered by motorcycle, or in Buenos Aires, Tel Aviv, or Moscow, doesn't mean that sushi has lost its status as Japanese cultural property. Globalization doesn't necessarily homogenize cultural differences nor erase the salience of cultural labels. Quite the contrary, it grows the franchise. And it made me think, while the rest of the world will continue to associate quinoa with Bolivia, how will the Bolivians' view towards quinoa change over time as prices for the grain make it nearly unattainable? Will they associate it with their culture, or will egg noodles become a new cultural tie for the Bolivians?